Hello, my name is Benjamin Ziegler, and I will be giving you a presentation over my complex problem, which was NBA injuries over time. Who might be interested in this? Well, of course, would be any NBA players, coaches, or training staff. Not that any of them will ever see this, but more broadly than that, NBA fans and sports fans in general, as a lot of the topics that I will cover can be more broadly applicable to other sports as well. So to start, NBA injuries have been increasing over time. If you look at our graph to the right, which was obtained by the NYC Data Science Academy, the percentage of games missed on average has increased steadily over the last 20 years. 20 years ago, maybe 15% of games were missed by a player on average. Now it's closer to 20%. Um, One thing that I think that is important to note is that player demographics like race, age, and height, other ones, weight, jumping ability, all of these type of things are not correlated to the increase in injuries. So no particular type of player is getting more injured. Rather, the league as a whole is seeing more injuries. So this speaks to it not necessarily being a factor of the types of players, but rather the league as a whole. Why are injuries a problem? Well, the NBA, being a multi-billion dollar organization, one of the biggest sports organizations in the world, have a product that they're trying to sell. Now that's high level basketball. And so when the NBA is affected by its star players missing games, that leads to fans being disillusioned because they paid money to come see a game and they don't get to see their favorite player. Lower NBA TV ratings and viewership as people don't tune into games where players are missing as frequently, as well as more directly for the teams. As you can see off to the right here, teams have lost between 140 to 260 million dollars being paid to players that are not healthy to compete. So if you're a franchise, you're looking to minimize injuries because if not, you're paying players that aren't actually able to contribute to your team. So why do injuries happen? There's a couple main theories. One being the increase in force production from athletes today as compared to in the past. Another one being an increased load over time. Now, some people might know that load has a very specific meaning in basketball context. I'm not going to be using that one. I'm going to be using a general terminology, load just being the amount of basketball played over time. And advancements in health sciences might be enabling players to feel like they're ready to play before they actually are. And then lastly, play style. The NBA today has more off-ball movement, more screens, that it's player-on-player contact, and more cutting than ever before. That leads to an increase in collisions, an increase in sharp movements that all might be affecting why injuries have increased. So to start with force production, well, athletes across many domains, most sports are better athletes today than ever before. That's largely due to different training methodologies. And this increase in muscular strength can lead to an increase in joint and ligament stress. That's when you make a hard cut, that energy gets transferred from your muscles contracting all into an isolated point, a lot of times at the joints, at the ankle, at the knee when you're trying to make a harsh cut. And so that puts the increase in athletes' ability to generate force is also partially detrimental to themselves as they are putting more force on their own joints. This could also be, aside from an acute cut or sharp turning injury, it could just be that their athleticism puts them in dangerous positions on the court. Here, I'll play a clip. This was just last week. Ja Morant, one of the league's most athletic players, attempts to nearly jump over LeBron James. This puts them both at a very disadvantageous position as Ja topples over him and LeBron almost gets sandwiched underneath him. You can see how right here, his athletic ability led him to put himself in a dangerous position. And as you can see, his hand's actually taped up because he got injured on a similar play the night before. Moving on, another possible reason for an increase in injuries is specialization. The youth are specializing in sports at a younger age than ever before. And specialization can lead to many undesirable outcomes. What are those? They could become more, you can lead to chronic fatigue injuries and also mental burnout, which allows you to disassociate and not necessarily maybe give the sort of attention to the game that it needs, leading to an injury. Where do those chronic fatigue injuries come from? Well, if you play basketball over and over again, your body's going to be exposed to the same stresses over and over again. That might be jumping stresses, landing stresses. These sorts of things can build up over time in the joints and in the bones to lead to chronic fatigue injuries like stress fractures, just different injuries that build over time, such that when you're only playing one sport and you're playing it at such a high frequency, your body cannot recover fast enough to prevent that injury. One way that this was very clearly shown was in the 2021 condensed season. It was the most injurious season the NBA has ever seen. A lot of people would speculate to say that that's because they played the most amount of games in the least amount of time, leading to chronic buildup over the season and more injuries. Thirdly, advance in health sciences. Athletes today, they have more robust care than before, more recovery protocols. That means, as you can see below, ice baths, compression sleeves, nutrition plans, all of these sorts of things. But I think particularly when you look at drugs used to mask pain, such as cortisol shots, these sorts of things may allow players to feel like they are able to play even before their bodies really are. That is, if you're not feeling great, but you eat great food, you get a compressive sleeve, you get a cold bath, then you go into hot sauna, then you get a cortisol shot. All of those sorts of things are going to be arbitrarily influencing your body, telling it that it might be recovered, when in reality it's not. And that might have players putting themselves in dangerous positions playing before they're ready. Also, one thing that should always be noted in professional sports is that performance-enhancing drugs use, while unquantifiable, we don't know how many players are using, it's probably not zero. That could also be leading to an increase in injuries. What are some potential remedies? Shortened seasons, increase in consecutive days off, that's giving more rest over time. Education of parents, letting parents know before their players get to the NBA that specializing at such a young age may not be beneficial, as it could lead to injuries. And then with anything, early detection helps solve all of these problems. If you can detect right before an injury happens or catch an injury very quickly after it happens so that you don't build on it, that would also be useful. So here I'll summarize. The NBA has seen an increase in injuries over time. This is an issue both for NBA teams and franchises, as they are losing money, but for the fans alike, as no fan wants to see their favorite players be out. So this is a solution that both sides, the NBA and the fans, would like to see resolved. What are some of the causes and solutions to this problem? Well, if an increase in force production is the problem, then possibly effective warm-ups have been shown to decrease the injury risk. That is, stretching, moving in different ways that prime the muscle for the high force output may reduce injuries. If the increase in load, both over time and acutely in those shortened seasons, is the issue, well, then maybe having more time off, a rescheduling of the season, doing more general broad physical preparedness so that the body doesn't just have the fatigue in these areas, but rather spread it out, allow your body to move in other sorts of ways. That might decrease injury risk. And as far as the medical advancements, you're never going to get professional athletes to tone back the recovery methods. They're going to use every method that they have to recover because that's their job and that's their passion. But one thing that's important to understand is prioritizing longevity. Possibly prioritizing your long-term health over these shorter success, which lead to acute injuries. That's a topic that needs to be covered and taken very seriously. Final thoughts. Well, the NBA is a great organization that has provided for many players, has provided a lot of joy to fans over time, and it is seeing an issue right now with many of its most famous, most celebrated players being out due to injury. It's important that we look into the causes for these issues, the multi-factored causes for these issues, and also build a robust plan to solve them. As mentioned, there are multiple different ways that we can reduce injury over time, and I hope to see the league and different basketball organizations start to implement some of these protocols such that we can see players play healthier, longer careers and achieve great success. That's my presentation. Thank you. Here is some of my sources. Please go free to look into those. They're going to really outline some of these injuries that happen and why they happen. And I appreciate you for listening. Thank you.